Bobby the Mouse was 18 years old and a bright young chap who had just graduated secondary school. He lived on the outskirts of London and had big plans and a bright future. In the fall, Bobby and his best friend Wilbour the rat were planning to attend Rodentsville University. Bobby was majoring in English. He had dreams of becoming a great author. At the same time, his chum Wilbour was majoring in engineering. Both young men were elated on their first day of classes. They both met up that evening to discuss how their first day went. Bobby was still in high spirits, and Wilbour, on the other hand, was a little down. After the first class, he quickly realized that this would be more challenging than he thought. Wilbour didn't stay down too long, because the two young fellows were ready to see the town, and boy did they ever. As the term went on, both boys saw less and less of each other. Not because of any ill will between them, but because the workload didn't allow them the time to get together. One day, Bobby got a letter from Wilbur's mum. She had sent it to Bobby because Wilbour hadn't been responding to her letters. So, she sent the letter to Bobby to give to Wilbour. Now a little concerned, Bobby went off to find Wilbour. He checked his dorm room first, and no Wilbour. Then he checked Charlie's Tavern. He knew Wilbour liked to hang out there, but still no Wilbour. Now, very concerned, Bobby wasn't sure where to go. It was after school hours, and most professors had already gone home for the day. Still, he might as well check the engineering building. When he got there, most of the lights in the building were out. As he walked toward the area where Wilbur's classes were, he could feel the creepy crawlies going up and down his back. Then, he heard some rustling noises coming from one of the professor's offices. He walked up to the door, expecting to see a professor, but instead, he saw Wilbour going through the professor's grading key. Bobby was stunned. He couldn't believe his friend could do such a thing. Just then, Wilbour looked up straight into Bobby's eyes. Time seemed to stand still, and then finally Wilbour spoke. "It's not what it looks like." "Then what is it?" replied Bobby. Just then, a tiny shrew peeked his head around the corner and asked, "Have you got the answers yet, Wilbour?" Wilbour was sweating, and Bobby was glaring at him. The shrew, noticing Bobby, made a startled squeak. Then Wilbour went into action. He made his way to the door, and before Bobby could stop him, Wilbour spoke swiftly. "Come with me to Charlie's Tavern, and I'll explain everything." Then, speaking to the shrew, he said, "You too, Timmy." The three rodents quickly made their way to Charlie's, where they sat near the back of the establishment. "So, what's going on?" demanded Bobby. "I'm stealing the answers for the engineering exams," replied Wilbour calmly. "Why? This isn't like you. Besides, you are smart, Wilbour. You don't need to steal the answers to get good grades." "You're right, Bobby. I don't, but some do," said Wilbour. Then jumping in, Timmy, the shrew, said, "Yeah, and they're willing to pay a handsome price, aren't they, Wilbour? You're stealing and selling people answers to the exams. This is wrong, and you know it," yelled a very exasperated Bobby. "Wrong," mocked the shrew. "Doesn't this nut know how lucrative this business is to us?" "He's right, Bobby," said Wilbour. "Think about it. You know how hard it is to make enough money to eat and be a good student. Think about how much your parents have struggled to send you to university. Think about how this could help them. You could join us and make more money than you've ever seen." After an uncomfortable pause, Bobby finally spoke. "You're right. That kind of money could help my family and me, but you know it's wrong. And that kind of money isn't worth the price of the ink and paper that makes it. You need to turn yourself in to the university and return the money, Wilbour." "This guy is a loon!" Timmy the shrew nearly shouted. "What will you do if I don't?" asked Wilbour. "Then I will have to turn you in myself," replied Bobby. You try and do that and we will frame you, Timmy said in a cold, mean voice. That's right, Bobby, we will, said Wilbour. As I see it, you have two choices. You join us and make more money than you've ever seen, or you keep your mouth shut and forget everything you've seen today. Because if you don't, you'll be framed and ultimately expelled from this university. And then what will your family think? Bobby sat there, stunned. He didn't know what to do. Yes, he knew the right thing, but he also knew that Timmy the Shrew and his friend Wilbour the Rat would not hesitate to frame him. Then Wilbour the Rat spoke again. We will give you 2 days to make up your mind. You can meet us here at 6 p.m. on Monday to give us your decision. As soon as he finished speaking, Wilbour and Timmy got up and left Bobby alone with his thoughts. The next 2 days were miserable ones for Bobby. He knew he had to do the right thing, but couldn't afford to be expelled. It would ruin his life, and he knew how much it would hurt his parents. On Monday, he didn't hear one word his professors were saying until he was halfway through his philosophy class, when he listened to the professor talking about Cicero and his thoughts on happiness and living a fulfilled life. The lecture calmed poor Bobby. He finally knew what he was going to do. If he caved into the pressure of Wilbour and Timmy, he knew he would never be able to look himself in the eye again. He had to do the right thing, no matter how much it hurt him. His last class ended about an hour before 6 before he went to Charlie's Tavern. He made a quick stop by the engineering building, and when he got to the tavern, Wilbour and Timmy were already there. The two rodents looked pleased with themselves. Bobby sat down, and Wilbour got straight to the point. So, what's your decision? Before I tell you, I want to know how much you are making off this scam, replied Bobby. About £100 a student, said Timmy. Okay, how long have you been stealing and selling the answers to the exams, Wilbour? Asked Bobby. Ever since the 3rd week of the term, replied Bobby. Finally, how many besides you two are involved? Asked Bobby. Just us two, said Wilbour and Timmy in unison. All right. Well, my answer is no to both joining you and keeping quiet about what you have been up to, said Bobby sternly. Then consider yourself expelled, snapped Timmy. Not so fast, said a voice from the next table. Wilbour and Timmy spun to see who spoke. To their shock, they saw none other than Dean Ronald Rabbit and President Oliver O. Possum. Shocked and scared looks covered the faces of Wilbour and Timmy. Your friend Bobby invited us to listen in, and boy did we hear quite an earful, said Dean Ronald Rabbit. Why don't you two chaps come join us? Said President Oliver Opossum. It's been a month since both Wilbour and Timmy were expelled, and the term is almost over, and Bobby is studying for his final exam. He has reached out to his old friend Wilbour a few times to try and reconcile and help him if possible, but he has not gotten a response. While it still hurts that Wilbour would do what he did, Bobby knows that he ultimately did the right thing.